Let's do ETS Prep on my speaking score.
For question 1, you will give your opinion about a topic. You have 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to record your response.
Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Children should receive an allowance for performing household chores and helping out around the house.
Prepare your response. Now, answer the question.
Well, I like this question because I have a 7-year-old daughter named Kayla, and I do believe that children should be financially compensated for performing chores around the house for a couple of reasons. First of all, paying kids increases their knowledge of money and finance. At some point in their lives, kids like Kayla are going to have to exchange money for their own labor. So this will benefit her as she gets older, and when she becomes an adult, learns how to manage her money responsibly. The second reason is that paying kids decreases the stress on the household, specifically on the mom. Kayla, for example, is incentivized to keep her room clean, and so that contributes to the overall well-being of the home.
For question 2, you will read some information in a campus publication. Then you will listen to a conversation about it. Using information from the reading and the conversation, you will answer a question. You have 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to record your response.
State University plans to build a new auditorium. Read an article about the plan in the campus newspaper. You have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now.
University has published an
Now,
announcement.
listen to two students discussing the plan.
I wish they wouldn't do this.
Really? But the place is so old.
Yeah, but I like that. I think it's a nice, historic-looking building.
Well, I guess it's kind of pretty.
It's an important part of the university's history. It was one of the first things built on campus. We should preserve that, not get rid of it.
That's a good point. But what about the need for an expansion?
I don't think it's necessary.
But it was built when the university was so much smaller.
That's true, but think about it. Have you ever seen the space completely full?
Well, no, I guess not.
Me either. There are never any events when the entire student body is there. In fact, there are usually just a small number of students in the audience for a play or a concert.
That's true.
So why make it bigger if it works as is?
I see what you mean.
I mean, there isn't much to do on campus besides go to the movies. If there were other forms of recreation or other social activities, I don't think most students would have said that going to the movies was their first choice.
The man expresses his opinion about the university's plan. Briefly summarize the plan, then state his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding it.
Prepare your response.
The university has published a decision. The university has published an announcement in the campus publication. University has decided to tear down the old auditorium. The university has published an announcement in the campus newspaper?
Now, answer the question.
The university has published an announcement in the campus newspaper deciding to tear down the old auditorium, to demolish the old auditorium, because the university has determined that the auditorium is too old and too small to serve the students' needs. Now, the man in the conversation vociferously opposes the university's plan specifically for two reasons. First of all, regarding the age of the auditorium, he doesn't believe that the auditorium is too old. In fact, he believes that the auditorium is a historic building on campus, and instead of tearing down the old auditorium, replacing it with a new one, the university should preserve it. For the second reason, regarding the size of the auditorium, the man states that the university auditorium is never full, and in fact, the student body is rarely there at the same time. So it doesn't make sense. And I mismanaged that one a bit.
For question 3, you will read a passage from a textbook. Then you will listen to part of a lecture about what you have read. Using information from both the passage and the lecture, you will answer a question. You have 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to record your response.
Concentrate. Let's go.
Now, read a passage about flow from a psychology textbook. You have 45 seconds to read the passage. Begin reading now.
People who enter a state of flow lose the sense of time. People who enter a state of flow lose the sense of time. People who enter, they lose the sense of time. They lose the sense of time. They lose their sense of time. Time loses all meaning. They become involved, focused. Task
Now,
be hard.
listen to part of a lecture from a psychology class.
I think this will help you get a picture of what your textbook is describing. I had a friend who taught in the physics department, Professor Jones. He retired last year. Anyway, I remember this was a few years ago. I remember passing by a classroom early one morning just as he was leaving, and he looked terrible. His clothes were all rumpled, and he looked like he hadn't slept all night. And I asked if he was okay. I was surprised when he said that he never felt better, that he was totally happy. He had spent the entire night in the classroom working on a mathematics puzzle. He didn't stop to eat dinner. He didn't stop to sleep or even rest. He was that involved in solving the puzzle. And it didn't even have anything to do with his teaching or research. He had just come across this puzzle accidentally, I think in a mathematics journal, and it just really interested him. So he worked furiously all night and covered the blackboards in the classroom with equations and numbers and never realized that time was passing by.
Explain flow, and how the example used by the professor illustrates the concept.
Prepare your response.
The reading describes a psychological concept known as flow. Flow is characterized by flow. The reading describes a concept. The reading defines a psychological concept known as flow. Individual is in a state of flow.
Now,
Sense of
answer
time.
the question.
The reading discusses a psychological concept known as flow. Individuals who are in a state of flow are engaged in a focused activity that is often difficult but very satisfying, and they lose all sense of time. They become unaware of the passage of time. And in the lecture, the professor cites an example of her colleague Professor Jones, who she discovered one night looking very tired. His clothes were rumpled. It turns out that Jones had been up all night working on a math puzzle, and he had skipped his dinner, and was surprised to learn that so much time had passed. It turns out that Jones, who was a physics professor, discovered a math equation in a math journal and became obsessed with solving it. And it covered his board with all kinds of equations and lost a sense of time.
For question 4, you will listen to part of an academic lecture. Then you will summarize information from that lecture. You have 20 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to record your response.
Now, listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well, use them naturally, in the wild, without any human instruction. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object's got to be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal, or human, so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nests. But most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they'll fit into the hole in an anthill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick. You could say it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick, it uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way.
Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor.
Prepare your response.
What was this, an archaeology class? Forget. Tools.
Now, answer the question.
The lecture defines and discusses a concept in archaeology about tools. And tools, as he describes it, have two definitions, a narrow definition and a broad definition. In the lecture, he provides two specific examples illustrating a case of each. First, the narrow definition. Narrowly defined, a tool is something that is deliberately changed by an animal to perform a specific task. For example, chimpanzees in the wild use a stick that they find on the ground, but they, in effect, make that tool by chewing it and sharpening it so they can use that stick to dig insects out of a hole. Regarding the broad definition, that's the wider definition in which the tool used by the animal is not changed in any way. For example, elephants can find a stick lying around on the ground and they pick it up without modifying it and they use it to scratch their back, for example. I'm happy with that one. That one flowed well. Okay, and then let me get my speech rater report. 1 second. You guys can't see that. Hang on. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to get this one, this one, this one. This is the ones I just did, right? I'm going to say get speech rating report. There you go. How are we doing for time? 15 minutes in about? I use these little timer guys to keep track. Here are my notes for 4. So you can see, this is what does Microsoft say? Eat your own dog food. You use your own systems. Task 1, I'm using the grid. Task 2, reading summary. Conversation point 1, conversation point 2. Task 3, reading summary. Lecture point 1, lecture point 2 on the flow and the old one with Jones. And then task 4, introduction to the concept of tools here, narrow definition, broad definition. I wonder what my scores are going to be like. I wonder also. Let's go. Let's have a look. You're getting clipped here, right? There's a problem with the... Here we go. Okay. Question 2, 3.39. Only. So what am I looking for here? It's okay. Some pronunciation problems. Really? Vocabulary diversity issues. Let me ask the AI here. Be like, how can I improve my VDI score? I'll paste in the transcript. Improving your vocabulary diversity score involves using a wide range of vocabulary. Synonyms and variety, descriptive language, specificity, paraphrasing. It's good, eh? Improved passage. The university has announced its decision in the campus newspaper to demolish the historic auditorium, citing its inadequacy in an age and capacity citing its inadequacy in age and capacity to meet students' needs. Oh, that's good. Citing its inadequacy. It's inadequate. Firstly, considering the auditorium's age, nice. Suggests preservation over replacement. Is much more sophisticated. Okay, good. Let's go to these are good scores here. I thought 4 was going to be higher actually. So again, with the vocabulary diversity, can I be inserting another adjective or an adverb in there? Grammatical accuracy. Here, I know my grammar is perfect or near perfect as a native English speaker. Notice that this percentile score is against a corpus of non-native English speakers. So the conventions that I'm using, or grammatically perfect or near perfect, may not be corresponding well with the lookup into the existing database of grammar patterns used by non-native speakers. But ultimately, look, I'm quite happy with the delivery. One of the things that I always recommend is trying to elevate your speaking speed to 150 words per minute. So I'm here slightly on the slow side in task 2. I kind of got flustered there, I guess, in task 2. It wasn't my best performance, but I think overall I'm doing okay. Let me go to my progress page. And so I've set a target of 26 here. So my score for that test is 27, so I'm outperforming my target at each of the task levels. You could see here, I could get these little trophies here. So it looks like I'm in very good shape, but I have some things to work on. And there, my score is there with the 27. Okay, so far so good. I'll see you for the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me.